Amy and I have been getting to know Alan and Jill over the last year or so, and we've been meeting once a month of late with some other church leaders to pray together, which has been just amazing. You're in for a treat. Would you give Alan a really warm welcome as he comes up? Alan, do come and join me. Alan, welcome to River Church.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much.
I did play for Middlesbrough as well, actually. I thought I'd probably, much of that doesn't help, probably, but anyway.
I'm terribly sorry. So any Middlesbrough fans in the house who are mortally offended
They were the best team I played for.
And of course, it's a good thing you haven't played for Norwich City, otherwise this could be a really dangerous few minutes of your time.
I don't like Norwich.
That's the right thing to say around here.
I know what to say.
It's been so good of you to agree to come and chat tonight. And I'm gonna ask a few questions, Alan, if it's okay, around your faith in Jesus and your footballing career and some crossover between those two.
Great.
But I thought maybe we could start, and you don't know I'm going to ask this at all. Could we start with asking, what's your prediction for tonight?
Oh, wow.
How do you think it's going to go?
We're going to win 3-0.
Come on, we like that.
I actually do believe that, believe it or not.
Can we call that prophetic?
Pathetic if it goes wrong, yeah, you could be right.
We love it. I'd love to just start asking you a bit about how did you realise you were more than just a decent footballer?
Wow, that's interesting. I think when I was younger, I just loved playing football. So I'm not sure. You know when you're scoring lots of goals. So I played for like the under sevens when I was 4, that kind of thing, you know. So I was always playing the little kid running around, scoring goals, and everybody else was much bigger. And I just loved it. So, you know, when you think, when did you realize that you were a really good footballer or whatever? I don't think I really knew, to be honest. I just thought, I love this, I'm just playing. And back in my day, which is a long time ago, just in case you're wondering, you can tell by the grey hair. But back in my day, the football clubs, professional clubs, weren't allowed to come near you until you were 14. And so now they can come near you when you're about 9 months old. You know, if you can control the ball, you're in the academy team. But back then, 14. And so you didn't have any sense at 8 or 9 or 10, or, you know, the clubs are coming after you and you're clearly going to be in their sights. So it wasn't until I was 14 when I thought, oh my goodness, I must be reasonably good.
Wow. So that's a bit where your love of football came from a really early age.
Yeah. So all I did was play football. So I was brought up in a family where we didn't do anything other than football. I had 3 older sisters, and my dad used to spend all the money on football boots for me. So my sisters hated me all the time, and they just took me to football and things. We didn't go to church, didn't go to anything like that. So it was a football upbringing from one team to another. So it could sound horrendous to most people, but it was great when I was growing up.
Wow, and what about your love of Jesus, and a huge part of your life? How did you become a Christian? Yeah,
well, that came later. So never went to church. I was baptized as a baby and never taken back. So I have no understanding of what happened then. As I say, my parents never went to church, and as a family never went to church. I think I don't know, I actually do think everybody thinks about God sooner or later. In one way or another, I think God reaches out to everybody at some point. And I remember when I was at school, probably about 14, I remember hearing, I always say that having not gone to church, never known anybody who went to church. I really do think that that's true in my life. But I know there was one day at school, God was mentioned, and on the way home there was a church. Every day I walked home, I had to walk past the church. And there was one day when I was 14, I actually knocked on the door of the church and nobody answered. So I concluded that there clearly was no God, and that was the end of it for another 6 years. Then when I was 19, I played football. When I was 14, I could have gone to any football club in the country. So I turned down Manchester United. There you go. That's my claim to fame.
A good decision.
It was a very good decision. And my reasoning was, when they said, well, why would you turn down Manchester United? This is Manchester United asking me. And I said, I want to stay at home with my mum. There you go. That's classic, isn't it? There you go. Thank you for that. And so from the youngest of ages, from 14, I signed until I was 21 for Queen's Park Rangers. So I had a 7-year contract still at school. So I did take my exams. I didn't really need to. I think I probably did for later on in life. And when I was playing for Queen's Park Rangers, I got sent out on loan to Cambridge United. And there I met somebody who was a Christian. And there's my story beginning. And he was a really interesting guy who clearly loved God. And I'd never met anybody who loved God. And I couldn't quite get him out of my mind. Every day he would talk about his faith. Everybody slaughtered him. It was a football world. It's a pretty ruthless world. And back then, that's quite a long time ago, was really ruthless. And so they tore him to shreds. And I was, in the end, bought to replace him. So he was sacked because of me. And he was the Christian in the team. And I remember watching him as he was sacked. And he had to serve out his last few weeks. And watching this guy talk about Jesus when everybody was laughing at him and saying, what's the point of believing in God? You've been sacked. You're nothing. And they really tore him to shreds. And I remember just watching him, and he would say that he desperately wanted to be a football player, but there was something more important in life than even football, that God was that important, and he knew that God had a plan for his life. And, I'd never heard anybody speak about anything in that way. And I couldn't go to sleep at night without thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And so I suppose I just found myself not being able to get the idea of a God who could love me that much out of my mind. And so it began from there.
Wow, amazing. And clearly your faith is alive and well. As we'll come on to why you got ordained perhaps a little later.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
I could ask you, for lots of us, I'm a football fan and not a good footballer at all. But I find it fascinating, and I bet loads of others do, to imagine what a day in the life of a football player is like. And I wonder if you could tell us about a very typical day, perhaps the 3rd of June 1989, for example.
Oh, there you go.
What would a day like that look like?
Oh, well, the 3rd of June 1989 was not a typical day. That's why Matt's asking me. It was a very special day. I was playing for Leyton Orient, and we got to a playoff final. So it was it was clearly the last game of the season. And running up to it, in the year before, I had met a girl who we planned to get married, Jill. And I phoned the Football League and said, what date could I get married that there'd be definitely no games on? And they said 3rd of June. Absolutely, everything's over by the 3rd of June. And it was the year when there were a few disasters in football, and one of them was Hillsborough. And everything got pushed back. And as the season was coming to an end, it became apparent that we were still in the playoffs, still in those games. And we were getting married on that day. And so the story goes like this. The football match, we were getting married at 3 o'clock. The football match was kicking off at 3 o'clock. The football match is in London, the wedding's in Northern Ireland. And so the football club managed to get the football match moved to 12 o'clock. And the wedding got moved to 5 o'clock. And then a helicopter was going around the pitch, waiting to land. And we won the game. We got promoted, which was good. And then the helicopter was meant to land on the pitch. And then I was to fly off to Heathrow, catch a plane, then get to Northern Ireland, catch another plane, and then get off the plane and get taken by a police car to the wedding. Is that great or what? I know. All the crowd ran on the pitch, and the helicopter couldn't land. And so as the game ended, I had to run off, and we were trying to find a helicopter in East London. It was interesting. Eventually did. I managed to come off a helicopter next to a plane at Heathrow. It's a very exciting moment. And everybody was going, he must be really famous. And I was thinking, no, I'm not. But I thought I wouldn't tell them. I had a bottle of champagne in my hand and a suit to get married in. And it was on the news because I was on a Sunday Express helicopter, so I was on their helicopter. But I was marrying a girl whose whole family were teetotal. And all they can see on the news is me with a bottle of champagne in my hand, just about to get married. So anyway, I did get there. We won the game, got there, and a very special day. Thank you.
It's a typical day in the life of Alan Comfort.
Exactly. It was a good day. Good story.
So being a football player it is a rare and quite remarkable profession, but it comes with, I imagine, lots of pressures, probably lots of temptations as well. How did your faith kind of go alongside the demands of your job?
Yeah, I think if you're a Christian, and as I said, going back from my story, just putting my trust in Jesus when I was 19, and deciding that I would follow Jesus no matter what, meant that, in the world of football at that point, there were no Christians. And knowing that there would be lots of pressures as well as temptations. The pressures, I had a manager when I first became a Christian who told me that he wanted to get rid of me because Christians are like cancer. If you get one, they spread, so you're out. And I really thought that I was going to lose my career. And I had another manager who called me into the office one day, talked about God for 2 days with me, and on the second day, he called me into the office again. And I thought, he's going to become a Christian. This is amazing. Everybody should become a Christian. And he said to me, in talking to me, he said, who's more important to you? This is a manager of a professional football club. Who's more important to you, God or me? That's what he said. And I said, well, I knew I was in trouble when he said it. And I said to him, well, you've got no chance. And he said to me, when you leave this office, don't ever come back. And I was just 20 years old. And I walked out, and they threw my boots at me. And I had a contract. I had a contract for another couple of years. But they wouldn't let me back into the club. And he went through unions and whatever. And as I was leaving his office, he said to me, and I will make sure that no other football club will sign you. That's what he said. I thought I was finished. I went to a mission event that lunchtime. There was an evangelist called Daniel Cousins. I think he comes from around here. He was speaking at something. And I thought, my life since I've become a Christian, it's only a year. Everything had changed, and it had changed amazingly. But the cost of being a Christian sometimes is great. And he was wrong, because 4 weeks later I signed for another football club who were very happy that I was a Christian. And although it was a tough world to be in that sense back then, I still had a career. Thinking about players and life as a football player, I think people watch all of us, don't they? And I remember, certainly in my career time, people watch to see if you're honest, if you're real, if you can be trusted, just like everybody else. So I know that players would tell me things that they wouldn't tell anybody else. I know that whenever we had anything going on at the club, I was the only one that was judged to be honest enough to give an answer. So if we played five-a-side, if it was disputable whether something was a goal, I was the one that always judged, because they thought that they could trust me. And the reality was in that people were watching to see if you were looking at girls you shouldn't be looking at, if you were talking to people you shouldn't be talking to. So if you're a Christian, a follower of Jesus, then if you drank too much when you were out, because you're just like the rest, you had to be different. It was tough because I was just young, and people do watch us, and people probably should watch us, because if we're followers of Jesus, then we will get things wrong, but we should be people that they can see Jesus in. But of course, what comes with that is that we feel there is a pressure, isn't there, that comes with it. So certainly as in my football career, people were willing to sort of say, oh, it's great to have a footballer, and then kick you down quickly. So you kind of got used to it, but probably the life that we all live as followers of Jesus, I think.
Wow. And your career that you've kind of spoken a bit about, we're sort of progressing through it. It was cut rather shorter than it might have been. That must have been a huge disappointment. What got you through that period of time?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I think from the moment I became a Christian, and in the world that I was in, every day I woke up, I thought the most important thing is that everybody I met would hear about Jesus. So as I went into the training ground every day to train, I'd pray that God would open a door for a conversation, or to tell somebody something. Not try and bash everybody into faith, but so that everybody knew, because I never knew. So I worked on the basis that lots of other people didn't know. So the driving force of my heart was that people would become Christians. I met a girl, Jill, who, when we met, we both knew that one day we would want to serve God, and I wouldn't be playing football anymore. So I suppose in the background there was always that. My football career was going okay, and we got married, and I moved to Middlesbrough and played for a while. And then I'd never been injured. I played quite a lot of games as a professional, and then I was playing in a match against Newcastle, and I snapped my ligaments in my knee, and I was carried off and never trained again. So my football career ended in a second. It was one day I was playing, and the next thing I never ever recovered. I had so many operations, but it was over fairly quickly. And I think that in my heart, all the way along, if you're a football player, you have a lot of things that go with it. I had a car and a house, and I drove around in things that people gave to me, really. And my career ended very quickly, and they queued up to take all those things back as quickly. And so life changed. But in the midst of it all, I knew that God had his hand on our lives, Jill and I, and that he had something better and bigger, what I would perceive as being better and bigger, if it wasn't to play football. And I wanted to play football, but there was something else. And I think just trusting God always, that as one door closes, another door is going to open, that we are a people of faith. We don't give up every time something goes wrong. We push in and we hold on. And I would have never have thought, as the temptation is, when things go wrong, we think, maybe if I went back to what I was doing, it would be better for me. But I wouldn't, I think when you become a Christian and you know that God is living in your heart, the only thing that matters is that he's living in your heart, and the truth of Jesus is with you. So I suppose it was that, holding on to that. So I was on the dole for a year. I didn't know what I would do. I couldn't run. I couldn't do. Football was all I'd ever done. So, that life without football, the fact that I've been a vicar now for 30 years, it's easy to talk about a nice house and a job and all those things. But life without football was a hard life to begin with. But life without Jesus would be a much worse thing. And so we just head down, trusted him, and said, God, open the door.
Wow. And then the phase that followed next, so obviously you got ordained in the Church of England. And I know that's something that there's some people in the room that are thinking about doing just that. And why? That may be a very long answer, but briefly, why get ordained in the Church of England?
Yeah, that's a really, really difficult one, isn't it? I would say that here's an answer. Never went to a Church of England church in my life. When I got converted, was in a church plant and stayed there. Jill and I met in a Baptist church in Guildford, and I'd never been to a Church of England church. When I went to play football for Middlesbrough, we lived in Durham, and there was a really good Church of England church. I got injured when I was playing for Middlesbrough, and there we were in that church. So why the Church of England? Well, we just happened to be there in that place, and say, well, God, if this is the time that you decide to end, that my career ends, and this is the place, then this must be what you want. for me. The chance to tell people about Jesus every day was something that I couldn't think of not doing. That's what I live for now. The fact that somebody will become a Christian. I'm not really bothered about the church that much, to be honest. Church buildings drive me mad. Money is uninteresting. But talking to somebody about Jesus, that it might cause them to think about making the best decision of their life to become a Christian, and helping people to grow in their faith. Well, it can't get any better than that. So from my point of view, that's all I wanted to do.
Wow, and it seems a really apt place to end. It's just to say that every week we're privileged that there are people that come to church here who wouldn't call themselves Christians and are either still exploring or love the community, or perhaps tonight they just love football. They've come along. What would be your kind of final encouragement to anyone who's in that position?
Well, if you're not yet a Christian, I would say to you, the best thing you'll ever do is to choose Jesus. And find out, think it through. I became a Christian the first time I went into church. I didn't think about it at all. You know, when people say, think about it, I didn't. I went into church. I wandered into a church. I heard the name of Jesus, and I became a Christian by the time I left. I knew nothing. I think it's possible to know nothing and trust Jesus. But if you're wondering and you want to know more, then find out more, because Jesus, the answer of who Jesus is and why Jesus died and how your life can be changed, you will find more than you could ever want to find. If you're here and you're thinking, I want to get deeper into who Jesus is, my life, I don't know if I walk faithfully, find more, dig more. We're saved by grace. It's a gift from God. But actually, we're saved for a reason. So we're saved and it's free, but we're saved to do things, to make a difference in this world, saved for things. And I'm trying to live a life that says, I think God saved me for this, that I might do these things. I can't earn his love. I don't want to earn his love. He's given it to me, but I want to serve him. So whether you're at work, whether you're at home with kids, whatever you're doing, you can love Jesus and love God and serve him, and you will do amazing things. So dig in, find more, and you will be blessed.
I love that. Alan, thank you so much for encouraging and inspiring us. We're so grateful. Thank you.